Jason Adewale was every woman's fantasy. A top striker in Europe's biggest football league, his name was in every headline, his face on every billboard, and his DMs flooded daily. But Jason was known for one thing off the pitch: he was a player. No woman lasted more than a few months with him. He lived fast, loved hard, and left harder. Until he met Amara. Amara was nothing like the women he was used to. She was a nurse, humble, gentle, and selfless. She spent her nights on 12-hour shifts and her days sleeping just enough before heading out to his games to cheer him on. She wasn't impressed by the fame or the cars. She cared about him. Jason had never known this kind of care. She cooked for him after late practices, nursed his injuries when his body ached, and sent him long, encouraging voice notes before every match. When he had a fever once, she sat by his bedside the whole night, wiping his forehead, refusing to leave. She would remind him to take his vitamins, pack his gym bag, and even iron his jerseys because she wanted him to look sharp when the cameras turned. She'd surprise him with home-cooked meals in his mansion, and sometimes after his biggest matches, they'd sneak away to quiet dinners where she would listen more than she spoke. Jason, for the first time, thought he had found someone worth changing for. But then he met Adana, Amara's twin. Adana was the opposite, a content creator with a love for luxury and zero patience for hard work. She had Amara's face, but her aura was sharper, her walk bolder, her gaze piercing. The moment Jason saw her, he felt something stir inside him. She wasn't soft like Amara. She was fire, and she knew it. And when Adana realized her sister had bagged the most desirable man in the country, jealousy brewed like poison in her chest. Why should Amara, the good twin, get everything she wanted while she struggled for followers and sponsorships? So she devised a plan. One night, she showed up at Jason's penthouse, claiming she was looking for her sister. She knew Amara was working the night shift. "Can I wait here for her?" she asked, sliding into the apartment as though it already belonged to her. Jason hesitated, but Adana was relentless. She made herself comfortable on his couch, poured herself a glass of wine, laughed at his jokes, and teased him in ways Amara never did. One thing led to another, and before Jason could stop himself, he was in too deep. From then on, they started a secret affair. Adana wasn't like Amara. She didn't cook for him. She demanded reservations at the finest restaurants. She didn't bring him vitamins. She made him buy her designer bags. She didn't wait in the stands at his matches. She wanted VIP boxes and luxury vacations. And Jason couldn't get enough. They took secret trips to Paris, Milan, and Dubai under the guise of team events. They spent nights in expensive hotels, drinking champagne and laughing until sunrise. She convinced him to fund her lifestyle. He bought her a luxury apartment in the city. He filled her closet with Chanel, Dior, and Gucci. He wired her money for her content projects that barely ever materialized. He flew her out on private jets whenever he traveled for away games. Adana knew exactly what she was doing, and Jason, torn between two identical faces but completely different souls, was hooked. The guilt ate at him whenever he returned to Amara, who continued to love him with all her heart, unaware that her twin and her man were building a dangerous secret life behind her back. Jason had been living a double life for months, and he thought he had perfected the art of balance. With Adana, he was a lover and a provider. He spoiled her endlessly. He'd hand her shopping bags filled with Gucci, Chanel, and Fendi just to see her smile. He surprised her with flowers delivered to her apartment, boxes of luxury chocolates, and even bought her a sleek black convertible just because she mentioned she liked it once. They went on wine-tasting dates, booked couples massages at high-end spas, and he made sure every holiday was extravagant. For Adana, Jason was the perfect man, her personal ATM wrapped in love and lust. But with Amara, it was different. The nurse who had fallen head over heels for him never asked for anything, yet gave him everything. She ironed his jerseys, cooked his meals, massaged his sore legs after practice, and cheered for him at every game. And yet Jason barely made time for her. He rarely called, sometimes went days without texting, and when she begged to see him, he always had an excuse. The man who once seemed like her dream had turned into a ghost she kept chasing. Her heart was breaking, and her stress was beginning to show. Jason's friends knew. They saw him sneaking around with Adana, saw the expensive gifts, saw the late-night hotel check-ins. But instead of warning him, They laughed and slapped him on the back. "Two twins, bro. You're living the dream," they joked, egging him on. Meanwhile, Amara began to suspect the truth. One afternoon, while on her after work, she stopped by a small cafe near the hospital. As she stepped out, she noticed a tall, well-built man sitting on a bench outside, patting his pockets as if searching for something. "Excuse me," he said, flashing a shy smile. "You don't happen to have some change on you? I left my wallet in the locker room." Amara's heart softened. She assumed he was just another struggling young man trying to make ends meet. "Don't worry about it," she said kindly. "Let me buy you lunch." They ended up sharing a pizza, talking over slices as if they'd known each other for years. He was funny, attentive, and genuinely interested in her life. For the first time in months, she felt seen. But then came the shock. When she teased him about working hard wherever he works, he chuckled and finally admitted who he was. Chaiko Koro, a rising soccer star on the same team as Jason. Amara nearly choked on her soda. Embarrassment flushed her cheeks, but Chaik only laughed gently. "Don't worry. I like being treated normal for once." From that day, they became friends. Whenever Jason ignored her calls, Chaik was the one who answered. He'd pick her up after work, take her out for ice cream, or just sit and listen to her vent about her relationship. He encouraged her not to shrink herself for love, to confront Jason, to demand the respect she deserved. Amara didn't know if what she felt for Chaik was admiration or attraction, but she knew one thing: he was becoming her safe place. Finally, weighed down by the truth, Amara confronted Jason. "Jason," she said, her voice trembling, "are you cheating on me?" Jason didn't even try to deny it. His guilt had long disappeared, replaced by Adana's manipulations and demands. She had been pressuring him for months to leave her sister, promising him a life full of excitement, passion, and everything Amara could never give. And Jason, blinded by lust and luxury, had fallen. "I think we should end this," he said coldly, his eyes averted. Amara's world shattered. The man she had loved, cared for, and built her dreams around had tossed her aside like she was nothing. He had dumped her for her twin sister. Their betrayal hurt her more than any pain she had ever experienced. She thought Jason loved her, so she never imagined this betrayal from him, but she expected it from Adana. That's why she made sure to introduce them when she was secured in her relationship. In the past, her twin sister had been responsible for her heartbreak, but none of those breakups felt like this. She was done with both her twin and Jason. Jason didn't look back. By then, he was already lost in Adana's fire. Amara, the good twin, had cried every tear her heart could hold when Jason left her for Adana. But through the pain, Chaik had been her anchor. He spoiled her with kindness, not just gifts. He listened, encouraged her, and reminded her of her worth. Slowly, she began to smile again. Meanwhile, Adana was thriving in public. The tabloids screamed of her and Jason's romance. Glamorous pictures of them vacationing, shopping, and kissing courtside filled the internet. For a while, she basked in the attention, convinced she had won. Then came the championship. Both sisters showed up, but separately. When Jason's team clinched the cup, the stadium erupted. Adana strutted down to the pitch in her designer heels, ready to claim her man. But then, out of the corner of his eye, Jason saw Amara walking down too. For a split second, his heart leaped. He thought she was coming to him. But she walked right past him, straight into Chaik's arms. They hugged, laughed, and celebrated together. Jason's chest burned with rage. If Adana hadn't been holding on to him, he might have stormed across the field and caused a scene. That night at home, Jason seethed. How could she? My own ex with my teammate. It felt like betrayal, even though he had betrayed her first. Amara and Chaik soon made things official. They were a couple now, solid, joyful, and proud. But just when Amara thought her heart had found peace, her phone rang one morning. Jason had been in a car accident. She rushed to the hospital, her breakfast in bed forgotten. Adana was already there, pacing with panic. But when the doctors explained Jason might never play again, Adana's panic turned to fury. So what now? No more money. No more lifestyle, she snapped, picking a fight with Jason before storming out. That was the end of her. Jason lay in the hospital bed, broken in body and spirit. He had left the woman who truly loved him for a shallow thrill, and now he was alone. But not for long. Amara came back. Despite Chaik's warnings, despite the strain it placed on her new relationship, Amara couldn't abandon Jason in his lowest moment. She took care of him, helping him eat, keeping him company, even doing his physical therapy exercises with him. Slowly, Jason healed, both physically and emotionally. By the time he stepped back onto the field months later, Amara was in the stands, clapping softly with pride. That night, he took her to dinner and, with tears in his eyes, asked, "Amara, will you take me back? I know I failed you, but I'll never make that mistake again." Amara's heart twisted, but she shook her head. "Jason, I'm proud of how far you've come, but I'm in love with someone else now. You lost me when you chose her." Jason accepted the truth, though it hurt. For the first time, he let her go without a fight. Days later, Adana returned, her pride bruised and her options running out. She begged Jason to take her back. He looked her dead in the eye and said, "Never again. I don't need a woman who only loves me for the spotlight. I want real love." Jason stood tall again, not just as a player, but as a man who had finally learned his lesson. Chaik, meanwhile, had been keeping his distance, waiting for Amara to choose. When she showed up at his apartment one evening with a nervous smile and a handwritten letter, he let her in. Inside the letter were all the words she had never said aloud. How much she appreciated him, how much he meant to her, how much she loved him. "I want us," she said simply, holding out her heart. Chaik grinned, pulling her into his arms. "Then you got me. Always." And so the circle closed. Amara finally found true love with Chaik, a man who saw her worth from the beginning. Adana, exposed for her selfishness, had to face her own emptiness without fame, money, or her sister's shadow to hide behind. Jason, humbled by loss, rebuilt himself and vowed never to waste his second chance at life or love again. And Chaik, he not only gained the championship, but the heart of the woman who had once been invisible to the man who didn't deserve her. In the end, every twin and every player got exactly what they had earned, whether love, regret, or redemption. The end.